Struggling for work and not knowing how to effectively market your business creates a massive amount of frustration for tradies and contractors. As we aren't the experts, we often think about getting help in the form of a marketing agency, but it's not that simple. Who to use, how to avoid being disappointed, and maybe you've tried in the past and it ended in disaster. Tune into this episode where we discuss how to make marketing agencies work for your business in a way that will get you profitable work and take the stress out of your marketing.
You've got to be really careful when dealing with a marketing agency.
Who promised the world and delivered absolute disaster.
If we pick the right agency, we can really get some big upsides.
We're paying the money, they'll fix everything, and I don't have to worry anymore. And that's a big problem.
Oh, I totally agree.
There are 5 critical steps to get the most out of any marketing agency.
I recommend that you look silly as often as you possibly can, if it's in the name of...
Well, welcome to the Profitable Tradie podcast. Tony Fraser-Jones, your host, hanging out with Phil Smith, my co-host. How you doing, buddy?
Always good, mate. Ready to roll.
Good. I'm excited about today. It's going to be very helpful. Save a lot of people a lot of pain.
Should be a juicy session.
What are we on about today, mate?
We're talking about when you need work, basically, or maybe you need more consistent work, and basically you're no marketing expert, and so you're wondering what's the best options, and it'd be good to have someone who knows what they're doing to help you, right? So, bit of a quandary.
It is, and you kind of maybe you try some stuff or Google some stuff, and eventually most of us think about how we can get outside help in the form of a marketing agency. And probably you've been telemarketed by 25 people an hour trying to sell you a website or some Google ads or some social media stuff, or you've got 5 emails today on that. And so there's never often a shortage of options to choose from. It's just which ones should you choose, which is challenging. And so today we really want to get into how to employ a marketing agency without really getting messed about, because you can get messed about, and so many people are disappointed, frustrated. They've had a difficult situation. They've tried to do something about it, and it's actually got worse and put them back. And maybe you're one of those people. You've had a bad experience, or you've heard from some of your friends or colleagues or other people in the industry about the horror stories. And I guess the pod today is to show you how to avoid those pitfalls and to choose the right people, because when you do this well, I think it can be a game changer for your business. You're really leveraging off other people's expertise, which, that's a really important thing to do if you want to grow a great business and have a great life.
Yeah, it definitely accelerates your forward if you get the right one. So I'm sure you have a story to kick us off.
I do have a story today. It's about a guy called Bernie Madoff.
Oh.
Heard of him?
Swell fellow, that one.
He was a swell fellow. Well, that's the thing. People thought he was a swell fellow, and that was kind of the problem. He was the guy who promised the world and delivered absolute disaster. He presided over the biggest Ponzi scheme ever. So he was a much respected financier and Wall Street legend, and he actually scammed, I think, about $65 billion out of people. And for decades, he was actually seen as a financial genius. He guaranteed steady returns, even when the markets are down. And big time investors, charities, small time investors, everyone sort of trusted him completely. They handed over their life savings, believing that he had the skills and the expertise to actually do the job. But no one really checked. No one really looked below the surface. No one really sort of poked the curtain, as it were, to see what was behind it. And really, he was just running a Ponzi scheme. So people would take their money out, and he would just take that from people putting their money in and just keep stacking it up.
Works if you keep getting new clients.
That's right. And obviously the music eventually stops in financial services when there's a downturn and there's not enough money to go around. And even when some people questioned his tactics, people just ignored that, and it all collapsed in 2008. People, he went to jail. I think he died in jail, actually.
Dead just now?
Yeah, he is dead just now. But I guess the point here is that it's really easy to trust people who look like experts. They have the appearance of being professional. It's almost like that expert phenomenon. We kind of, if someone's got a suit and a tie and they look the part, we tend to assume that they are the part. And the other side of it is, like in financial services and investing, there's often a power imbalance, and we don't know as much about it as the people we're dealing with, and so we tend to assume that they've kind of got it all covered. They can confuse you with jargon and all sorts of BS, and I think you got to be very careful when you're dealing with a marketing agency, just like someone helping you with your financials, that you can kind of have the wool pulled over your eyes, even when someone's not really trying to. But obviously it's worse if they are trying to, and that's happened to a lot of people. So you've got to be aware. And at the end of the day, it's your money, and you've got to take the responsibility for, the results that you get, even though you're using someone else. So Bernie Madoff, be warned.
Yeah, 100%. I think very important lesson there. And definitely if we're picking the wrong agency or going for the wrong help, we run into some pretty big negatives, right?
There are some significant problems. I mean, you go to get help from a marketing agency where you don't have enough jobs and typically enough leads. And if they're no good, you choose the wrong one. That problem is just going to carry on. But unfortunately, it'll carry on and you will have wasted money with them for no results. And so I think the thing that really frustrates me about this is that then makes people very skeptical of getting help. It makes them skeptical about marketing. Like, they're like, well, marketing is just a waste of money. I tried that, it didn't work. And if you don't, invest in marketing, you can't grow a business consistently. Like, marketing is 100% one of the key foundations of a great business. If you want a business that gives you time, money, and freedom, you're going to have to scale it and grow it to get enough people in your business so you can, they can take the load off you, and that requires enough jobs.
Yeah.
So it'll make you kind of doubt yourself, and you'll probably never progress down far enough to get enough work to get to where you want to go. It compounds your cash flow problems. Like, not only do you not have enough work, now you've paid people to do stuff, and so your cash flow's further upside down than when you started, which is the issue you were trying to solve, and that's very frustrating. And there's a lot of anger and frustration because you're in the pit of despair about, well, how am I going to get more work? You've got your hopes up and you feel like, I've done something positive, I've made a decision, and that all comes crashing down because you don't get the results. And that's, I don't know, I've felt like that before. I don't know if you have, but it's very frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then if you choose the wrong agency, sometimes you can just become a number to them as well. It's like maybe they sell you with the A team, and then once you get on board, they just give you the B team, and you're kind of a number, and you're dealing with a virtual assistant somewhere in a non-English speaking part of the world, and it's very difficult to to get the traction that you want. And so you get sold the A team, and you get pretty low skilled people that actually don't do a great job, which is annoying.
Yeah, to say the least. Which I suppose just further compounds that anger and frustration, really, and your disillusionment with the whole process. But hey, look, on the other hand, if we pick the right agency, we can really get some big upsides.
Well, I mean, what you're doing is you're basically buying expertise and quicker results. And also you're buying education because you want to make sure that you learn from these people to upskill yourself as well. That's kind of the happy side effect. So done well, you will get more jobs, which will generate a good return on investment from the money you spend. You'll get those results quicker, which helps you, build your confidence in marketing, helps you know that actually I can generate work here to hire more people or buy some more equipment or get a bigger premises, whatever it is. So that's a good feeling. It's a real good feeling when knowing you can control your leads coming in. You get more cash flow, and you can develop a really strong working relationship with an agency. They almost become a partner for your business, if you build a long-term relationship. And your stress levels go down, your enjoyment goes up because you're on the front foot, you're making money, you're leveraging your time, and it's just a good experience. So it can definitely work well, but unfortunately, it doesn't happen as often as it should.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's dig into the core issue, man. Where do we start with that?
The core problem is we're not experts at marketing. And so we're wondering what to do. We're kind of desperate for help. Maybe we've got some idea, but we've never really done this before, and it hasn't been effective with what we've tried. We've sort of relied on word of mouth. And what typically happens is we abdicate the responsibility for our marketing to someone else. We're like, well, we're paying the money, they'll fix everything, and I don't have to worry anymore. And that's a big problem because that's not the way business and life works. You still have to take responsibility. So we just hand it over to them, we pay our check, and we're like, right, let's just watch the leads and the cash flow in. And it doesn't always work like that. And that doesn't mean the agency isn't good either, to be honest, though they may not be. So we don't set any expectations, we don't track progress, we don't hold them accountable, and then we're like, well, what happened? And so I think the key to success is to be very strategic and proactive when you're hiring a marketing agency, and also when you're working with them. It's two parts. Hire them well, and notice how I say hire, because it's like hiring an employee, and then you've got to manage them properly, like you have to with any employee in your business. If you don't do that well, then it typically doesn't work that well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a lot of parallels there with hiring anyone, actually. Like, we see this a lot as well. You take someone on who's going to work in the field or on the tools, tradesmen and the likes. You bring them on, they seem like they're going to be really good, and abdicate responsibility to them as well. Like, hey, all the jobs are going to go perfectly now because I've got this new tradesman and they seem so great. But here's where the difference lies, is that because we really understand what the tradesman is doing, if they start going south or they're not on track or they need some guidance or they need to partner with us on improving their skill set, we can usually see the cracks and we can fix them because it's within our wheelhouse of understanding. Whereas when you've got that marketing agency, the tough thing is that if you abdicate to them, unlike the tradesman, you often don't understand if they're getting something wrong, or if they need guidance, or if they need reassurance, if they need to be moved onto a different track, or if they need a little bit of your help. You just can't tell because marketing could be a dark art to you, and so as a result you abdicate to them, and the hard part is that you also can't correct. And so all you have to go by is the results that you have or don't have. When in reality, it could be that they're doing a crap job and that you shouldn't keep them, but it also could be that a few small tweaks and some knowledge from you, and actually they could be on fire, but you need to be able to see that. And I think that's a difficulty a lot of people face.
Yeah, it is. What happens is the owners of the business will be like judging the performance of the agency by what the agency tells them about their performance.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is like, yeah, we're doing really well. We've got all these likes and all these comments on these posts, which, spoiler alert, if they're talking to you about vanity metrics about likes and posts and reach and, yada, 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 that stuff is meaningless, really, unless it's leading to results. And results in this context are sales and gross profit earned off jobs.
Yeah, and those things absolutely can lead to results. They
can.
can matter. But if the jobs aren't coming, then those things don't really matter at all. So
yeah, 100%. So I think there's a bunch of steps here that we find really helpful. And look, we use agencies as well, and we've had some really negative experiences.
Oh, we've had the good, the bad, and the ugly.
We have, and most of the bad and the ugly were when we were kind of bad and ugly as well. We didn't do a great job of managing them.
We abdicated, right? And I think that's the big learning here. So, I mean, yeah, like you said, we've got a few good steps. I think we should go through them, and why don't we start at the very beginning? It's a very good place to start.
So I think step number one to get the most out of a marketing agency is you want to define what success looks like for you. Get clear on the goals you have for your marketing. So, what do you want to achieve? How many jobs do you need each month to keep your team busy? And you can work that out. If you know how many jobs you need, then you can work out how many quotes you need to do, and then you can work out how many leads you need. And that'll help you figure out, well, that's the size of the marketing challenge. Maybe I'm getting 100 leads at the moment, and I actually need 200 leads, so I need another 100 leads. So I've got an idea of what it looks like. So that's important. And then I think another thing that, marketing is math. So it's like, well, how much am I prepared to pay to get a client? This is massive. We call it cost of acquisition or CAC. If your average job is $5,000, well, you're probably prepared to pay, several $100s to get that client. Whereas if it's a smaller job, if it's a $500 job, you can't afford to pay that much.
Yeah.
And so this stuff is really important to understand when you start working with an agency, because then they've got some parameters to work with and understand how it works, what they need to do to actually make it pay.
Yeah, and they may need some guidance from you on this as well, because while they really understand the marketing, you really understand your market probably better than them. I mean, after all, you are that market. You live in it every day, whereas they might not. So another big thing there when you're talking about that ROI, Tony, I think is also knowing about not just what you'll get back from a job, but also like what's likely to happen in terms of the lifetime value of that client. So if we're thinking about like a small job doing some service work at somebody's house, I mean, like we might end up paying $500 to get that job, and we get that job. It's $200 job, and they're unlikely to need us ever again. Well, then we spent $500 to get $200 once. Whereas on the other hand, like if you're getting a bigger job, it might be a better payoff, and more importantly, if you're getting a job from a client that's going to use you again and again and again, like any kind of, let's say you get a builder or a general contractor where you get this one job, but you're likely to get lots and lots of future jobs over time, then it's like what you would spend in order to get that first job could be considerably more. And it might actually be you don't make a ton of money, in terms of ROI from that first job compared to the marketing spend, but over time, that's going to come back in spades. Again, if you're getting repeat service contracts, things like that, same thing. The cost of that first job is one thing, but the cost of the client in general, you'd pay a lot more to get that client. And so when the marketing agency asks you, what are you willing to spend to get a job, that's probably not a number. It's probably a different number depending on what type of job and what type of client, and that's the type of thing that you would know and they might not. So they'll need your guidance on that. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and it goes to your strategy for marketing too. It's not up for your marketing agency to tell you what type of work you should be getting, and that's another problem. We go to an agency and we're just like, we need some work. Well, what type of work? Well, I don't care. Yeah. Anyone with a pulse who's got a wallet will do. Well, that's very difficult for an agency, because who do they target? Where do they look? And so it's your job to say this is the type of work we want, then you can engage an agency, and they may say, well, actually, that's not something we can necessarily help with, or it is something we can help with. And so understanding who you're going to target, that's important, and then the economics of those jobs, so you can give the agency an idea of, well, this is what we've got to play with. No point spending $500 getting me these jobs or these leads because I can't make money out of that.
Yeah.
And so that's super helpful. So I think that's very important.
Yeah, well, once you define success, it's also very quick to know whether or not it's working. And I think the hard part is often if we don't understand this, that we start working with an agency, and it's like you said earlier, you know, they tell us it's working. But what they're talking about is, hey, look, we're getting in front of people, we're getting, you know, vanity metrics, likes and reach and stuff like that. Whereas if you're quite clear on what you're willing to pay to get a client, you know, you can actually figure out pretty quickly, A, am I getting clients, and B, is this actually profitable for me? So defining that success is really, really important for the way that you work together in the future. So what's step 2?
Yeah, step 2 is you actually hire the right marketing agency in the first instance. And look, what we've found is it's really helpful to judge them by their own marketing. So if they are selling, you know, search engine optimization or Google ads or social media stuff, you know, search maybe for a marketing agency near me, see where they rank. Look, if you can't find them online, then I would be concerned, because are they actually good at this stuff? Can they do it themselves? You know, if they're a digital marketing agency and all of their leads are word of mouth and they get all their work through a BNI and a networking group, I mean, fair enough for them to get out there and do it, but I for myself, I'd be wanting someone who's good at marketing themselves, because I think that really counts. So, you know, if they can't market their own business, I guess they might struggle to market yours.
Yeah. I think one quick thing just to clarify there, you know, the reason why you would say marketing agency near me or something like that, or you might say, you know, top rated marketing agency, or you might say marketing agency for SEO. The reason you keep it quite general is because if you get an email or a phone call from Phil Smith's Marketing and you Google Phil Smith's Marketing, well, Phil Smith's Marketing is actually quite likely to rank highly because the keyword is the name. I mean, it's unlikely everyone's optimizing for that person's name, you know? So sometimes when you just Google their business, it's like they're going to come up, you know, pretty well, especially with things like Google. Whereas if you Google more generic terms about marketing agencies, it's like, again, do they come up? Because that will show that they're actually doing a good job of marketing their business, not just that you searched them directly and found them directly. So I think it's important to see, are they actually doing a good job themselves?
For sure. And there's a little hack here you can do. You know, if you find them online, then you should just wait and see how their follow-up marketing is as well, because if they're really good, you'd expect to see them retargeting you, and so you would expect to see their ads come up in searches and on social media later, because they should be stalking you. Because what happens is you can go to someone's website or social media or touch some of their marketing, and basically, you know, if they're sophisticated in any way, they can make the ads track you. They follow you around the internet.
Basically, you leave a little digital footprint behind on that website, and they know how to target you on all your social media and everything.
You'd really want them to be able to do that. You know, you might think, oh, that's a bit weird. Well, it's actually a good thing, because it shows they know what they're doing. And do your due diligence. You know, look at their reviews, look at their case studies, all that normal stuff. Speak to the clients in similar industries. You know, maybe if they are good at working with people in your industry, that might be a benefit as well. And it doesn't hurt to interview multiple agencies just to see how they roll, you know, how they stack up. I think that can be really helpful as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, just like employing anybody, you wouldn't go ahead and just hire the first person that applied with nobody to compare to. I mean, that would be a little crazy, right? So it's the same with a marketing agency. Don't just go for the first one.
Yeah, this is important when you're not, you know, haven't done this very often, because it's very easy to, the first person you come across seems pretty good, but you have no benchmark, you have nothing to judge them against, and so looking at a couple of options can really help.
Well, especially, I mean, one thing I find is that often when marketing agencies get in touch with us, which they do, you know, daily, one thing that can be difficult is that when they send you an email, I mean, it seems very personalized, almost like they sought you out because you were going to be so perfect and they were going to be able to do such an amazing job with you. And you can get this little feeling where you're like, you feel really special and like, wow, you know, like I am such a great person to work with, and this is going to be so good. They have identified this. So I think just put that to the test, because it might be that they've actually emailed, you know, 20,000, 200,000 plus people that exact same email, just with a different name. So I think it is really important to put that to the test. Don't feel too enamored with that direct reach out, because they might not have actually identified anything about you that would suggest that they're going to work well together. So definitely do your due diligence.
Yeah. Step number 3.
Let's do it.
Set clear expectations from day one. This is a great phrase. Unmet expectations are premeditated resentments, which basically means if you don't make things clear at the start, you're going to get frustrated later on. And if you don't do that, you are setting yourself up for failure later. So you can't assume that they know what you want. They need to be told explicitly what you're looking for, and that's in terms of results. So we talked earlier about this is the results, this is the economics of my business. This is what I can pay for a client. These are the type of clients I want. This is how many I need. This is the spend that we can look at based on those metrics. So get specific on the results, but also get specific on how you're going to work with them. So when you're going to meet, how the reporting works, all that sort of stuff. Get clear on them. From them, like how long do they think this is going to take? Let's be honest. If you have an agency that says we're going to get you, 25 extra jobs a week from day one, I'd be like, okay, sounds too good to be true. Probably is too good to be true.
Could be.
Maybe sometimes, there's a possibility, but often it does take a little bit of working out, and that's okay. So get really clear on those sort of things with them, as what you can expect in the short and the long term as well. Things like SEO, they can take a lot longer. If they're telling you they can get you ranking on the natural sort of search within a few days, it's probably unrealistic.
Yeah, I mean that sort of thing is often going to take months to rank really high in terms of just generic search results, like organic search results. So, and I mean, this is again, when you're doing that due diligence we mentioned, this is the kind of thing you'll figure out quite quickly, is if every agency says, hey, for me to get you organically, top of page 1 on Google, for that keyword, this is going to take 8 months. Someone else says 8 months. Someone else says 7 months. And then someone goes, oh yeah, definitely in the first week. You can usually smell a rat there. It's going to stand out. So I think sometimes if you don't know what's actually going to be realistic when they're making their promises, their claims, it's like, well, that's again why looking at a few different options is really helpful, because you start to be able to talk expectations with each one, and you can establish pretty quickly what's realistic versus what seems like an outrageous claim.
And like SEO longer term, but it's probably realistic for them to say we can get you Google Ads working relatively quickly, because that's pay for play. They'll pay every time they click, so that's maybe more realistic.
Absolutely.
But a good agency is going to balance short and long term wins as well, and I think too they might take a little bit of time to get to know your business as well. There might be a few little tweaks that need to be made, and that's okay if they talk about that. You don't want people to be unrealistic and overpromise. Like overpromising smells like BS to me all the time.
Oh yeah.
And so just be careful of that. I think that's definitely when you're setting expectations.
Yeah, well, I think realistic sounding expectations is always just to understand that the results should actually get better over time, always, because like I said earlier as well, the marketing agency understands marketing. They know marketing really well. What you know better than them is your clients. Like, you're going to know that better than them. And so what happens is, as you work together, you can learn some marketing from them for sure, but they are going to be actively learning about your market from you. And so actually their marketing efforts should get more and more and more effective over time. And so if they claim again, I'm going to get you 50 new jobs per week every week from day one, I'm like, that just doesn't sound realistic. Like, I mean, it's not that you couldn't get there, it's that I would expect, week 1's going to be okay, week 2's going to be a bit better, week 3's going to be better than that. And over time, this is going to start working really well. But they should be talking about that up front, because honestly, that's how it will go. And so when people are talking in that way, don't think, oh man, they're not backing themselves at the start. It's like they're being realistic. That's a very realistic picture of how it will look.
Yeah, for sure. And then step 4, which I like, is keep them accountable. You got to make them feel like they got to fight for their bread.
Yeah,
that's important, and that you could potentially pull the pin at any time. They have to understand that dynamic, that you hold this hold power in this relationship, that they don't hold all the power. And the way to do that is regular communications. You need regular check-ins with them. You can't just let them go for 3 months. That's a terrible thing to do. That is abdicating responsibility. You might do that with a staff member. Not recommended, Captain.
I would hope you wouldn't.
Yeah, you shouldn't be doing that. So either weekly or at least bi-weekly meetings to review results. And part of those meetings is if you don't really understand the results or the metrics they're giving, you need to ask them and get them to educate you on what this actually means. This is absolutely critically important. So too often, we might go to the accountant or the marketing agency or someone else, and they talk to us about stuff, and we kind of don't get it, but we don't say we don't get it because we don't want to, them to feel like we don't get it.
Yeah, well, you don't want to look silly.
You don't want to look silly, and it's fine to look silly. It's much better to look silly than to act silly, which is to not ask.
I recommend that you look silly as often as you possibly can.
It's so important.
If it's in the name of asking questions and gaining understanding, especially in these situations. A couple of reasons. Number one is, firstly, is you'll actually gain a better understanding of what they're talking about, which means in future meetings you can be more effective in working together, because this is a collaboration. It's not them just going and doing stuff and you sitting there and reaping the rewards. Like I said, they're going to get better the more they work with you because they learn from you, and you're going to better be able to assist them in assisting you if you know what they're trying to do and how they're trying to do it, because you can give guidance and tips and, hey, I actually think this would resonate more with the people that you're reaching out to, etc. And so, again, ask those silly questions. It'll actually make you a much better partner to them as well. And don't be afraid about looking silly. And one thing I would always say as a red flag is if you ask those, silly questions and they are, shutting them down and saying, oh, don't worry about that. I wouldn't enjoy that. As a working relationship, and I would confront them and say, hey, look, it's really important to me that I understand what you're talking about so that we can work together more collaboratively, and I would say most agencies are going to be really thankful for that, so make sure you push for it. Super important.
Yeah, so at least bi-weekly, but often weekly check-ins. You could have a daily check-in as well. It might be WhatsApp or Slack or some sort of email thread or whatever, just for quick updates about what they're doing or what's working or any ideas you have. And the key thing here is that they have to believe that you're watching everything, and that'll help them stay sharp. Even if you're only checking it, spasmodically, that's really important. So they have to know that you're watching, and so that means you need to ask good questions. You might be, questions like, "Hey, last week the jobs are costing about $400 a week. What are you going to bring that? What are you doing to bring that down to $300?" So ask that question, or what's our plan for improving next month? Or, what ads are working the best at the moment? What ads are you not happy with, which we should improve? And that really keeps them engaged, keeps them pushing, keeps them thinking. That's important. We want them to learn from the mistakes and refine strategies, because for them, they're often on a retainer, and so they've got you locked in. They're paying a monthly amount, and there's just human nature sometimes that they might just let that ride for a little while without giving it all the attention that it perhaps could have. They might be looking at it, but they might be able to really dig a bit deeper. And if you keep the spotlight on it, the magnifying glass on it, they're going to give you more attention. It's like just the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So the more proactive you are, the more proactive they will be.
And I think on that note, it's important not to undervalue yourself, because it's really easy to go into one of these relationships and think, well, I'm only probably quite a small client of theirs. My spend is probably nothing compared to some of their other clients. They probably have a lot bigger businesses that they work with. And so me asking these kind of tough questions of them, who am I to do that? They're just going to tell me to go stuff myself because, I'm not even one of their big fish. But don't think that way, because end of the day, if you were too small for them to care about, they wouldn't have taken you on as a client. Like, they took you on as a client. They have a duty of care to make sure that you get results, and you actually have the right to ask these questions of them all the time. If they weren't willing to ask and answer these kinds of questions, then honestly, that means they don't want you as a client, which is cool. Part ways, if they're taking your money, which means that they are responsible and accountable to you, and that they should answer these questions, and they should be happy to do it. And hey, look, you might ask a question like, hey, cost per job last week was $400 and marketing spend. How are we going to bring that down to 300? And sometimes they might give you bad news and say, look, I'm not sure we're ever going to get that down to 300, and they might have valid reasons why, but they should be able to explain that. And so they might not always have the answer that you want to hear, but they definitely should have an answer for you, and it should make sense. And that's their responsibility to you. So don't hold back asking those questions, and definitely don't hold back from a place of, I don't know if I'm a big enough client to warrant being able to do it. You are, or they wouldn't have taken you on.
For sure. And here's another little question you can ask. You can talk to them about split testing as well, which split testing basically is you've got one ad that you're using, and then you put another ad against it to see if you can improve on that ad. There might be a variation of that ad. Maybe you've got a different headline, different photo, maybe some different words. And so you should ask them about, hey, how can we split test this ad to see if we can actually get from 400 to 300, or maybe it's from 400 to $325 or $375, whatever it is. They should always be doing that. That's how you work with sort of digital marketing, is to split test things down to try and get those incremental improvements as you go along.
Exactly. Even incremental improvements over time is still going to add up to a lot. Like if you go from $400, as your acquisition cost for one job, if that comes down to $375, small improvement, but across every single job you ever do, like this is actually a pretty marked saving. And so I think the thing is like, they might say, 300 is a bit of a stretch, and you go, well, that's cool. How can we bring it down, and what do you think's realistic? And they might say, well, I think we could get it to 375 by taking these actions. You say, that's great. Let them get to 375 and then say, where do we go from here?
That's right.
How's 350?
Yeah.
So work your way down. Like you can keep asking these questions. It's not a one and done, and you do have the right to ask. So let's get on to step 5.
Step 5, this is important because you have to do your part, which is effectively removing any excuses they have for doing their job. And what that means is if they need something from you, you need to provide it quickly. So they might want testimonials, case studies, photos, special offers, whatever it is. You need to get it to them fast. Do not give them the excuse that they don't have enough content to run, or that they're waiting for you for stuff. That's really bad. That will just cause them to be lazy, and they'll deprioritize you. So you've got to be really proactive. And the more you engage, the more you get involved in it, the better results you're going to get long term. And it's like tennis when you're working with an agency. If they need something from you, they've hit the ball over to your net, over the net to you, and it's in your court, and they don't get to do anything until you hit it back. So you need to hit it back as quickly as possible, so then it's their problem.
Well, and as you said, it sets the tone as well.
Yeah.
So if they get used to the fact that you always send stuff back immediately, you're always quick to respond, it sets the tone to them that they're like, well, we need to be quick to respond to this guy because otherwise he's going to be on us. So we need to stay on this. Whereas if they send you a request for something, hey, can you get a testimonial from this job? Or, hey, could you film a quick video, following this structure? Here's the stuff to say. Could you send it over to us? If you take 3 weeks, you've set the tone that, that's acceptable. And so they're, oh, well, cool, no rush getting back to him because he never rushes getting back to us. So clearly he's okay waiting 3 weeks. So why don't we do the same? After all, we do have other squeaky wheels that that we need to get back to right now. So just make sure you're that squeaky wheel and remove those excuses. It's super important.
Yeah. So I think those are the 5 steps. First step is really clear. It's just you got to set the success criteria for yourself. What does success look like? Number 2, hire the right agency. Number 3, set expectations from day 1. 4, keep them accountable. And 5, do your bit. Just be quick and get your stuff done quickly. And then the payoff is you can build a long-term partner, a marketing partner, if you do this right. And look, we've had all the same challenges as we've said. Work with lots of agencies. Agencies are great when it's done well because it gives you the opportunity to leverage your learning off them, create a valued partner. You might work with an agency for a number of years, 5 years or more if they're doing well. Does it take some work? 100% it does, but it's definitely worth it. When it's done well. And occasionally you might have worked with an agency for a couple of years and they have a little blip. That can happen too. Just work with them, see if you can get it back on track. That's often what can happen. Everyone has a bad day occasionally. Same with your employees. But keep working at it and you can really get on the front foot with it again.
Yeah, 100%. Calls to mind an old Zig Ziglar quote.
I love it.
A good Zig Ziglar, man. But he always talks about, hey, imagine if I poured all this training into my employees and then they left. And he always says, well, imagine if you never trained them at all and then they stayed. And I think it's the same with your marketing agency is if you treat them like that long-term partner and you're investing in that relationship and, you're training them somewhat, like they're training you, you're learning about marketing, sure, and, they're doing it all, but you're learning. But at the same time, you're training them. You're teaching them more about your market. You're teaching them more about what's going to resonate with your target clients. You're teaching them more about, what's actually going to work for you and what your expectations are and how to work best together and all this. If you're doing that, they'll become a great partner. Whereas if you don't put the effort in, then really all the time you spend with them is going to be terrible. So you probably can't get rid of them fast enough. So really it's on you. You got to take responsibility for that. It's super important. All right. Well, should we land this plane?
Let's do it. Hiring a marketing agency shouldn't feel like gambling with your business results. You have to take ownership of the process by setting goals, tracking results, and never abdicate responsibility for driving work in your business. Thanks heaps for listening. We'll catch you all again next time.
See you later.
Congratulations on being part of a select group of savvy business owners who are taking their businesses to the next level. And to help you on your journey, don't forget to check out our show notes for a copy of our free book, The Profitable Tradie, and other valuable resources. Thanks for being a part of this special group, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Profitable Tradie podcast.